am in my pajamas right now. It is still snowing outside. I am recording my third podcast of the day. And today, I want to talk about dissociating with older versions of yourself. Now, I want to explain how I came up with this thought a while ago. It was November of 2022. Now, let me give you a quick backstory about me. I moved to Canada as an international student in 2016, and every summer since 2016, I have visited my hometown, Calcutta, which is in India, every single year without fail. And then in 2020, pandemic happened, and I didn't see any of my family for 3 years. And then in November of 2022, I finally decided I was going to go and be home again just for a month. And the last time I was at my house was when I was 21 years old. So when I walked in to my childhood bedroom after 3 years, it felt so weird. I physically could see a ghost of my 17-year-old self or my 21-year-old self living in that bedroom. And I started thinking about their goals and their thoughts and who they were as a person. And I completely could not relate to them because the girl who's walking into this room now is just different. Like, I felt like the tiles under my feet felt weird. Like, I could see a third person, like ghostly view of my 24-year-old self reflecting on my 17-year-old self. And that started happening throughout the entire trip. Like, I started feeling super introspective every time I went to go get fuchka on the street. I was taking a rickshaw. I started thinking about my 17-year-old self that took a rickshaw to go to math tuition, and what she was thinking and what her goals were when she was going on that like rickshaw ride. And I just kept on feeling super eerie when I was meeting a childhood friend. I was just thinking about, oh my god, like reminiscing on our memories and what problems and like insecurities I had back then. And I think in some ways we always feel super embarrassed about our older versions of ourselves. Like, I wish I could reintroduce myself to people who I met when I was 21 years old, 22, heck, even 6 months ago, because of just how embarrassing I was. You just think, because you're just such a different person now, right? Like, that's how you feel right now. You feel so much more evolved and feel like you've healed, or you feel like you've made a lot of progress as a person, right? And when I was thinking about my 17-year-old self in India living and the life she had and stuff, I felt proud and also a little bit sad, because I started thinking about how far I've come since then, but also sad about how happy she was with certain parts of her life. Like, my life happiness, like the happiness I had on my day to day was so simple. I found I had very simple joys in life, okay? I painted more. I, danced, and I did a lot of different things when I was younger. And it just realized all those things that made me happy. And I started realizing how dissatisfied with life I am now sometimes, with like even good things happening to me. Like, I take a lot of things for granted, like now and also back then. I mean, I took very different things for granted back then, but now, like, the things that make me upset with life, I think my 17-year-old self would literally look at me and be like, "You're an idiot. You're doing fine. Like, you're fine." But you can't just help but feel, you know, you know what I'm saying, right? So I also started romanticizing an older version of myself quite a bit. I was just like, oh my god, she was so energetic and so motivated, and she had like no thoughts. Like, I literally was head empty, no thoughts. I think I lived most of my pre-COVID life on autopilot completely. Like, I had no awareness of what or why I was doing anything. And there's something very freeing about that thought, right? Because now I'm overly anxious and overly aware, and I feel like, what is the meaning of life? What is the purpose? Why is everything I'm doing for, like, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Like, there has to be a means to an end, right? Of everything I'm doing now. But back then, I was just kind of like la di da about everything, and I actually in 2023 had quite a I was going through a little bit of a shitty time. Okay. I like lost after got laid off from my previous job. I decided to take content creation a bit more seriously. And I was having such a hard time feeling motivated and having energy throughout my day to just do anything. I still struggle with it sometimes, not gonna lie. But I was especially going through it and I kept on romanticizing an older version of myself constantly. I was like, 21-year-old me was such a risk taker, 21-year-old me was so motivated, like where's that energy? I just felt like such an old person. So in lots of aspects where 24 feels like such great progress, and I feel like I'm a cooler person now. I feel like I'm a cool and more secure person, like less insecurities and all of those things. Like I think I've made so much progress in so many facets of my life, like qualitatively, which is also why I feel like I should reintroduce myself to a lot of people who knew me from my past. There's also bad qualities I have also picked up where which 17-year-old me and 21-year-old me got together. Like I so wish I had the energy and just like the lack of overthinking that I had back then. Like I overthought some things back then, but I don't think I overthought a lot of career things that I now really am cautious about. So I started really romanticizing 21-year-old me, and I genuinely thought I lost her. Like I was like, I'm so lazy, I feel so complacent, I feel just lack of like all energy and motivation right now. And yeah, until I went back to India in December of 2023 and January, just like these last 2 months, I went to India and I felt like my 21-year-old self again. Like I felt like I was feeling such a go-getter. I felt like I was doing things. Like I was busy. I wasn't tired at all. Like I felt very go, go, go. And I'm not saying life was like smooth sailing and perfect. Like I lost my passport at the Delhi airport within the first day of me landing into India. So for God's sake, it wasn't smooth. But I was I didn't let it get me down, which I would have normally on a day to day basis. Like I had missed a fair share of flights in the last, year in 2023. And for some reason, I kind of was okay. Like my energy levels was fine. I didn't let it get me down when I was in India. And I just felt like I felt reignited because I was there for it with a purpose and a reason, and also such a short amount of time that I was like feeling very seize the day-ish. And yeah, I realized that, oh my god, that version of me still exists, because I thought I lost her, but she exists. And yeah, like I think in so many ways we have, like, as much as you think you're such a different person and you've come such a long way from like when you were 18 to now, like I feel like I'm completely unrecognizable to 18-year-old me. I also realized that she is in me somewhere. So I think we are the sum of all the averages, if that makes sense. Like we are an average of all our past versions. I don't think I'm using the terminology right, but we're like, you know, 5% of our 10-year-old self, or 13% of our 17-year-old self. Like, I think we are a mix of good and bad qualities over the years, and we have made progress in some of those facets. But then sometimes certain scenarios, or certain people, or certain places will re like trigger either a good version of you or a bad version of you from the past. Like sometimes you will meet a person from your past who might just trigger an insecurity that you thought you healed yourself from, or a place will reinvigorate like a lot of good versions of you, like the way India did for me, where I felt like I was re-energized and all of those things again. um it's also interesting how I think we all go through changes. Like we all feel like we are unrecognizable to a past version of ourselves. Yet when we meet somebody, we will probably never give them the grace that maybe they have changed. Like we'll always meet them and remember them from like the with we'll always meet them and remember them like the way they were in the past, like with our preconceived notion of them, whether they've done you dirty or whether they were a great person. Like whatever you remember them as, like you will judge them according to that. I also think that's a reflection of how you have evolved as a person as well, because you could also be a person who has gained a lot of empathy, because I do think as you change and grow as a person over the years, you do start to gain a lot of empathy for people. And because you know what it's like to be there, you know what it's like to be insecure now, you know what it's like to go through a bad time and not be at your best headspace, and you probably have treated people shitty in your past due to certain reasons, and I think everybody goes through that. So you feel that empathy towards other people, being like, yeah, I understand you. And I think once you reach that point, it makes it much easier to give grace and kind of recognize if people have truly changed, and also allow them to show changed versions of you. And sometimes, yeah, people, and it also goes vice versa. Like, I could also still meet somebody and feel like they've never changed. Like, my default setting will be like, oh, she was a bitch to me back in the day, and like she's probably a bitch now too. Like, and that shows a pretty unevolved, less empathetic version of me, because there's that. I am also a person who's very overly empathetic, like very devil's advocate kind of person. Like, I will always treat people and give them grace because that's what I would want to be given, because I know I have gone through a lot of insecurities and things like that. Like, I am a benefit of the doubt type of person. So there is that. So I don't know. Maybe it's related to your astrology sign. I feel like mine is. I guess. I don't know. Never mind. It's like a lot. Like, it's a lot of thoughts. Yeah. I feel like that's the episode for today. I feel like we have all the good and all the bad still deep down within us, whether you like it or not, and it's going to come out when it needs to come out. But I think we're all working on ourselves, which is great. It's really nice to romanticize old versions of yourself and not constantly think of yourself as an embarrassing teen. But yeah, bye.